Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, uh, Tuesday, May the 19th, 2026. Of course, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Finally, reminder to everybody, of course, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, anyways, so we're just waiting for people to show up here. So, we have somebody who can. So, I guess then, since we have at least one more person here, guess I'll just go ahead and start talking about what's on tap for tonight. So, oh, we lost. um, well, okay, so I guess we'll wait another moment, see if they come back. Anyways, hopefully everybody's having a good week this week. Um, saw some and saw some good old fashioned cartoons earlier today. Some you know let's see, saw probably the last Screen Gems produced Fox and Crow cartoon from Color Rhapsody. Um, as of course Columbia would continue to distribute them through UPA back in 1949. Let's see. Saw a novel tune today as well. Let's see. A Little Red Schoolmouse. Let's see. And so yeah. And so let's see, 2 minutes. So yeah, a few more seconds, and guess I will talk about what's on tap for tonight. Again, a friendly reminder to both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the screen, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, let's now talk about what's on tap for tonight. So, tonight we got an interesting article from MeTV Tunes talking about some little known facts about Leon Schlesinger. Leon Schlesinger, of course, was the man who originally created the Looney Tunes series of cartoons. So we'll be looking at a profile piece on him. Also, of course, we'll be looking back to last night's Monday Night Raw. Was a go home Raw before this weekend's Saturday night's main event, as as now that card has been finalized. Um, then we will of course wrap things up with this day in each history. But with all that being said, now let's go ahead and get started here. Let me go, of course, grab the material here that we'll be going over here in a moment. Alrighty then. Here we go. 8 things you didn't know about Leon Schlesinger. Let's learn about the founder of Looney Tunes. Article published today at 9:50 a.m. by MeTV Tunes staff. There he is, of course, in You Ought to Be in Pictures. The You Ought to Be in Pictures short. All right, so May 20th, which is tomorrow, is Leon Schlesinger's birthday. And while the cartoon studio he created is legendary, much remains unknown about the founder of Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies. He was a complicated character with a vibrant background in show business and was a pioneer in many ways. But he notably did not have the best relationship with his animators. And yet, without him, we wouldn't have so many golden age cartoons. Many of us have seen over the years a lot of the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies series, and the characters that came out of them, including, of course, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Elmer Fudd, and the rest of the lot. So, number one, before he worked in cartoons, he produced westerns starring John Wayne. Um, the westerns he produced were Ride 'Em Cowboy, 1932, Haunted Gold, 1932, The Big Stampede, 1932, The Telegraph Trail, 1933, Somewhere in Sonora, 1933, and The Man from Monterey, 1933. John Wayne called later, quote, I later thought Leon's cartoons were better than the horse operas he put me in. Oh, that's funny. Number two, and again, the picture there, of course, with him opposite Daffy right there was from Yada being pictures. According to number two, Daffy. Okay, so Schlesinger's lisp inspired Daffy and Sylvester's voices. According to Chuck Jones, Schlesinger had a lisp, but was a good sport with his reaction to Daffy Duck's voice with, quote, Jesus Christ, that's a funny voice. Where'd you get that voice? Unquote. Number three, Porky Pig was his favorite Looney Tunes character. When pitching cartoons to Schlesinger, animators would include Porky in storyboards to get approved, even if Porky would not be appearing in the cartoon. According to Looney Tunes animator Bill Melendez, who would, of course, go on to give us, is part of the Melendez production team that would give us Charlie Brown and the Peanuts Gang. Quote, Leon liked Porky Pig. We'd put up a storyboard, and Leon would come in and say, quote, I don't see any Porky Pigs. Don't we make Porky Pig here anymore? So one of the storymen came up with the idea, no matter what they were working on, there would be a drawing of Porky Pig. Leon would go, another Porky Pig, unquote. He thought we were making Porky Pigs now. I don't know why he liked Porky Pig, because somebody once told me that Porky was really a caricature of Leon, who was kind of a portly guy, unquote. Well, maybe going back to the previous thing they were mentioning about the lisp and stuff like that, maybe on some level, Schlesinger knew some of it. In other words, maybe he had an inkling that Daffy and Sylvester's lisp were inspired by him, and maybe he even had an inkling that Porky was supposed to be a caricature of him, and was secretly flattered. He may have played dumb for humor's sake, but he may have been onto it a little bit more than people probably realized. Probably something that people probably didn't think too much of. But anyways, Number 4, Schlesinger appeared in 4 cartoons. In addition to playing himself in You Ought to Be in Pictures. Now, You Ought to Be in Pictures was the Looney Tunes short that was both live action and animation. We've seen clips of it earlier here, like go back. That scene right there. And let me see, there might be one, and that scene right there. Those two are from You Ought to Be in Pictures. Oh. Anyways, in addition to playing himself in You Ought to Be in Pictures, Schlesinger was a character in Hollywood Steps Out, Russian Rhapsody, and Nutty News. He was also mentioned in The Penguin Parade and Porky Pig's Feet. Number 5, he got his start in silent films. As a lot of the Golden Age animators probably, Golden Age producers, directors, and animators probably did. The first company Schlesinger founded was Pacific Title and Art Studio, which made title cards for silent films and later talkies. Talkies in quotes there. Talkies was one of the early terms they would use for, sound pictures or sound movies with sound in them. Number 6, he owned a boat and called it the Merry Melody. The Termite Terrace employees were naturally quite bitter about the yacht because Schlesinger would not let them aboard. Oh boy, that sucks. Your boss has a boat called the Merry Melody, named after the very cartoons that you're making, and you don't get to partake in it. That's just not very nice. Number 7, he was credited as an animation innovator. Schlesinger was credited with leading the charge in switching his studio's animation paint from watercolor to vibrant oil-based paints. He also produced the first cartoon with human characters, which might seem insignificant to us now, but most early cartoons featured only animal characters, which is true. I think, even though there are some human characters that do predate all this, most notably Farmer Alfalfa, who originally was produced by Winkler Productions and eventually became part of the Terry Toons cast of characters. But I digress. Which might seem okay, yeah, and we saw that. He loved that while most cartoons were cute and silly, Looney Tunes was satirical and witty. Another thing Schlesinger prided himself on was that when he started his production studio, he had 36 employees, and when he retired in 1944, that number had grown to over 200. So 36 to 200. That's quite a jump. Let's see, divide that by 450. So that was well over 5.5 times. His numbers grew about 5.5 times during that stretch. And there's another scene from You Ought to Be in Pictures. Number 8. In fact, this is actually about that very short. In fact, and aside from Leon Schlesinger, of course, Michael Maltese was awesome, and Michael Maltese is one of the right story guys for Warner Brothers at the time, or for Leon Schlesinger Productions at the time. Uh, he had actually portrayed the security guard that you see in there. So number 8, he starred as himself in You Ought to Be in Pictures. You Ought to Be in Pictures was considered a groundbreaking cartoon for featuring animation and live action in the same short. The cartoon featured other employees from the Termite Terrace, in parentheses, like Looney Tunes writer Michael Maltese, who I was as the mean security guard, on parentheses, basically what I just mentioned. But Leon was the main character in the cartoon. Daffy tricked Porky into ending his Looney Tunes contract. Both characters meet with Leon, who knows Porky will be back again. Yeah, essentially, what it came down to is Daffy tried to get Porky out of his contract, basically try to get him out of the way so he could actually become, a star. He wanted to be the star of the studio. Kind of an early incarnation of his rivalry relationship with Bugs later, right? Um, all right, so watch Bugs Bunny and Friends on MeTV Tunes weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 Central, 6 a.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific, and Sundays at 12 noon, 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Pacific. Alrighty then. So let's see where we're at on time here. Yes, roll this back up. 17 minutes. Let me first see if there's anything that might have been added here. If there's anything that might have been added here since I left in terms of, or since I picked this story this morning. Let's see. Anything new? Actually, yeah, there was something here. Okay, well, do let's see. I get another kind of Leon Schlesinger, Mel Blanc. Hey there, Metal. Did you cover the new Scooby Doo announcement? I hadn't heard of anything outright. I do know there was something like from a couple weeks ago. I guess they were coming out with a I thought I heard something. They might have been coming out with maybe a new animated series, but I hadn't heard anything since. I hadn't heard, so I hadn't really heard anything about anything new. Like aside from the fact from like about a couple weeks ago, there was, and hey, Metal, by the way, I do know about a couple weeks ago they had mentioned something like some people were getting cast for a Scooby Doo. I don't know if that was an animated series or a live action series, what have you. But aside from that, I haven't heard anything new. So I do need to step away from the camera for a moment. So if you want to put something in the chat about that, if there's anything other than what I've said. Oh, okay. There we go. OLM in Japan is making one where Shaggy and Scooby meet some new people in Japan. Oh, okay. So it sounds like what you're saying is that they're making a scoop. Well, everybody, you heard it here first. Thanks to Metal. I guess OLM is doing what sounds. I guess if I'm interpreting this right, based on what you're saying, sounds like they're making a Scooby Doo anime. It is called Yokoso Scooby Doo. Okay. I got a Variety article if you want it. Yeah, I guess if you want to put it in the chat, maybe I'll grab and go over it. I guess. But as I said, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment, so I'm doing that. You want to, if you have the link to that, you want to add it into the. Oh, there we go. All right. Well, I'll be right back. As I said, I gotta go away from the camera for a moment. So just give me a sec here. First, all right, I'm back. So let's see now. All right, so there's a link, and I will go grab that in a moment here. Just as an opinion, you can always look it over and discuss it on another show. Well, usually since Variety is not usually one of the sources I use regularly, metal. Sometimes if if it's not one of the sources I use regularly, it's probably best I just do it like when I get it, because I'm liable to, there's always that chance I'm liable to kind of put it more on the back burner. So, anyways, let me go grab that link as I said here. Um, Never mind. All right. Fortunately, I can't use it because they don't allow you to use ad blocker, so I can't use that article. I'm not turning off my ad blocker for that, so that's fair. I was actually figuring you might have waited until one of your normal sources covered it. Well, I mean, it probably at best that probably is what will happen. If it is something, there's always a chance that bounding. You're saying it's an anime, so bounding into comics might cover it, or that Park Place might cover it. So I probably will wait till those because, as I said, part of the reason I don't use Variety and sources like that is because they have ad blocker on that. Sorry. I browse with Brave, so the browser's built in ad blocking bypasses that. Yeah, so no biggie. I mean, we can wait and see if any of my normal sources do cover that. So, but I do have one. I do have another article from MeTV Tunes you can go over in that. But thank you for letting me know about the story. I'll obviously be looking for it, see if it does get covered either by bounding into comics or Bleeding Fool or that Park Place. I'm sure one of them probably will cover that. At least you know about it now. Yep. Yep. That's good to know. So, with that being said, of course, let's get back to the other article we're going to do here, real quick, or the one that just popped up now for me. And I finished covering the previous article there. And I know Metal, you're a bit of a Mel Blanc fan, and so you might be into this particular story here. So a last minute audition with Leon Schlesinger secured Mel Blanc's role at Looney Tunes. Learn about how Mel Blanc became Porky Pig. Article published May 19th, which is today by MeTV Dude Staff. Oh, there he is right there. All right, so here we go. Before he was the man of 1,000 voices, Mel Blanc was another young actor in Hollywood trying to get a job. His journey to Looney Tunes was not easy despite his immense talent, and for 18 months, Blanc wasn't even given an audition at Leon Schlesinger Productions. He would walk into the office every 2 weeks and ask to audition, only to be told they didn't need any more voice actors. Now, at the time, though, of course, because how he got Porky Pig was the guy who originally did Porky Pig's voice, which I know his last name was Doherty. I think his full name was Joe Doherty, who actually had a legitimate stutter, and for a while there was the guy they were looking for until the stutter became too much and it slowed their production down. But anyways, that's another story I've probably covered a few times on here before. But anyways, instead of giving in to dejection, Blanc continued coming back. Now, granted, during this time, he would get work from other studios, like MGM and Walter Lantz. In fact, for the first in 1940 and 41, he would for the first three Woody Woodpecker appearances. First one being in the Andy Panda cartoon, an Andy Panda short, and then of course the first two of his own. Mel Blanc was the very first voice of Woody Woodpecker. In fact, they would use Blanc's voice for like the next 10 years in terms of the intro in the Guess Who segment, the Guess Who portion of the opener. Of let's see. Blank continued coming back, knowing that if he could get a if he would get a job one day, that all changed because the receptionist who would normally turn him away was not there, and a different receptionist was there, and they were willing to audition Blank. Blank was pulled into a room with Fritz Frayling, Tex Avery, Frank Tashlin, Chuck Jones, and Bob Clampett. Basically, a litany of Hall of Fame animators right there. And we, of course, we talked a bit about Chuck Jones and Bob Clampett recently. Of the four, the most excited about the potential addition of Blank was Tex Avery, who needed someone to voice a drunken bull in Picador Porky. In Blank's autobiography, That's Not All, Folks, Blank wrote, quote, asking Mel Blanc if he can sound like a drunk is like asking Marcel Marceau, can you mime? Okay, that's a very interesting response. All right, so continuing on here, of course. After Blank's impression, the animators broke out into applause and immediately booked Blank for that Tuesday. From there, Blank was brought in to voice one-off characters for Merry Melodies cartoons. In 1936, Porky Pig was the number one star of Looney Tunes, Merry Melodies. Porky was created by Fritz Frayling, who received a lot of criticism for giving Porky a stutter. But according to Blank, quote, Frayling wanted to distinguish Porky from the many homogeneous animal film characters, and in hindsight, the distinctive speech impediment, unquote. Frayling asked casting to find an actor for Porky who stuttered, and Joe Doherty, who I just mentioned, was chosen. Doherty had a real stutter, one that he struggled to control in real life. After 12 cartoons, they brought in Count Cutelli and an additional voice actor who could record some of the lines more clearly. Basically, what happened with Doherty was what they believe happened was the continued stress of recording his stutter all the time, caused him to stress out more and tense up more, and it just kind of exacerbated the stutter to where it went from being a stutter they could work with to being a stutter they could not work with. That's what it basically boiled down to. Blank explained the Doherty situation was complicated. Quote, it must have seemed ideal at first. Need a stammering cartoon pig, hire a stammering actor, but problems unfolded. Recording was still done on expensive optical film, and Doherty's inability to come in on cue wasted a lot of it. Irritating, budget-minded Leon Schlesinger, unquote. Yeah, so Doherty was ultimately fired shortly after Blank was hired, and Leon Schlesinger needed a new voice actor for his prized pig, ASAP. So he called Blank into his office and said, quote, I've got a problem here, Mel. Joe's a nice enough fellow, and he does his best, but I was wondering if you'd try Porky's voice, unquote. Blank recalled joking in the moment, quote, You want me to be the voice of a pig. That's some job for a nice Jewish boy. Unsmaller quote. I was joking. Schlesinger was in no mood for laughing. Unquote. Hmm. After going to visit a pig farm to learn how to really sound like a pig, Blank returned to Schlesinger and combined the way Porky currently sounded with timing inspired by the grunts of real pigs. Blank recalled the moment he got the role, quote, I finished by ad-libbing the uh uh the uh that's all, folks. Unsmaller quote. Schlesinger jumped up from behind his heavy desk and stabbed his finger in the air. Quote, You're it! He shouted. While Porky would ultimately be just one of Mel Blanc's 1,000 voices, the audition was what ultimately made Looney Tunes his home. From this moment forward, he became the main voice actor for all Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies cartoons. Yeah, to such a point that they actually signed him to an exclusive contract, I believe, in 1941. So, there you go. Let's see. We're up to 37 minutes. I think that's a good. That's it for tonight. Then on the main news articles. So now what we're going to do, of course, we're going to move on to the wrestling wrap up. Look back to last night's Monday Night Raw, as well as look ahead to tonight's NXT. As of course, last night's Monday Night Raw was the go home Raw before this Saturday night's main event. They also did some setup for also did some setup for they also did some setup for Clash in Italy in 2 weeks as well, or the following week, on the 31st. So with that being said, last night's Monday Night Raw came from the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina, with of course Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary. The show started out with a confrontation between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns, in which the two of them got into it, and then the Usos also got involved. And it eventually led to a 3-on-1 beatdown by the original bloodline of Roman Reigns and the Usos, which eventually led to Jacob Fatu challenging Roman Reigns for tribal combat at Clash in Italy. So that was one of the two matches for Clash in Italy coming up on May the 31st here, a week from this Sunday. Then the first match of the evening saw a street fight between in a battle of two former Judgment Day stablemates, of course. Finn Balor defeating JD McDonough, despite the fact that Dominic Mysterio tried to get involved in the match. It saw Finn Balor execute his double foot stomp on the top, the coup de grace, onto a trash can, which he had basically put onto JD McDonough in 14 minutes 13 seconds. Then you had another segment in which you had had Brock Lesnar make his return. Well, actually, even before that, you had a Tornado 6-man tag match in which Los Americanos of Bravo El Grande and Rayo Americano defeated Los Americanos Hermanos of Bruto and Julio Credo and the original El Grande Americano. Then after that, then you had the segment that saw Brock Lesnar make his return, attacking Obafemi and delivering a series of F5s to basically set the stage for a potential match at Clash of Champions between, as Brock Lesnar apparently is coming in to look to maybe get his revenge on Obafemi, who had quote unquote retired him at WrestleMania. Then in a match for the W Women's Tag Team titles, Brie Bella and Paige retained over the Judgment Day duo of Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez, as of course Liv Morgan tried to get involved. Eventually, Brie would get the schoolgirl pin on schoolgirl roll up on Roxanne Perez. And then, as all three members of the Judgment Day started, they threw Paige back in the ring and started beating down Brie Bella and Paige. Out came Bayley and Lyra Valkyria to beat down, to basically chase off the Judgment Day. You also had another women's segment on the night, setting up a match at this Saturday night's main event, a non-title match between WWE Women's Intercontinental Champion Becky Lynch and Sol Ruca. Ruca making her recent debut, looking to once again hit the Soul Snatcher on Lynch. Originally, they were teasing the idea that this was going to be a match for the title, but I think they nixed that idea. Would have been good because that would have made 4 or 5 matches that would have been title matches at Saturday night's main event. We'll go over that in a moment here. Then the main event saw Seth Rollins get the win on Austin Theory, as you had Logan Paul getting and then after the match you had a beatdown between Street Profits, Seth Rollins, and The Vision, leading into, of course, The Vision's title defense coming up this Saturday night on Saturday night's main event. So now, of course, let me talk a little bit about what's coming up on tonight's NXT. As soon as I pull that up, then we'll kind of review what's going to be going down this Saturday for Saturday night's main event. So coming up on tonight's NXT, coming from the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida on the CW, Tristan Angels is setting a open challenge. You'll have a singles match between Keanu Carver and Tate Wilder. In tag team action, you have NXT champion Tony D'Angelo teaming up with NXT North American champion Miles Bourne to take on the team of Cam Hendricks and Mason Rook. Mason Rook, of course, who signed with the WWE just last week. In a match for the NXT Women's North American Championship, Tatum Paxley defends the title against Lizzie Rain. And in a match for the NXT Tag Team, which was announced last week, the Vanity Project of Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes with Jackson Drake and Mika Lockwood in their corner will be taking on the Dark State duo of Deion Lennox and Saquon Sugars, with Cutter James and Osiris Griffin in their corner. Now, WWE also will have this Saturday night's main event, and I believe they filled out all 5 matches for the card, including a 6 match that was signed on last Friday Night SmackDown, in which you have on one side you have WWE Women's Champion Rhea Ripley teaming with former tag champions Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair to take on the team of Jade Cargill, B-Fab, and Michin. Then you have for the women's tag team title, Brie Bella and Paige will be defending against the most recent former champions, Irresistible Forces of Nia Jax and Lash Legend, as this will be, of course, Jax and Legend's contractual rematch. As we just talked about a few minutes ago, Becky Lynch is set to take on Sol Ruca in a non-title match. Then for the Intercontinental title, Penta will be defending the title against Ethan Page. And the final match announced for the show, of course, was for the W World Tag Team Championships. You'll have the Vision of Logan Paul and Austin Theory defending against the Street Profits of Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford. So anyways, that's all we got for the wrestling wrap-up. I do need to step away from the computer one more time here for a moment, so I'll put some music on, and then when I come back, we will get into this day in each history. So let me just do this real quick here. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So with that being said, of course, now let's With today being, of course, Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. Let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in each history. History! So 2021, 1996, 1951, and 2021. All right. So first off, I'm going to head back 75 years ago, as on this date 75 years ago, back in 1951. The Warner Brothers short Rabbit Fire, which of course was the first part of the Hunter trilogy, that they did that featured Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Elmer Fudd. So Rabbit Fire is a 1951 Looney Tunes cartoon starring Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Elmer Fudd, directed by Chuck Jones and written by Michael Maltese. The cartoon is the first in Jones's hunting trilogy, quote unquote. The other two cartoons following it being Rabbit Seasoning and Duck Rabbit Duck. It is also the first cartoon to feature a feud between Bugs, Daffy, and Elmer. Produced by Warner Brothers Cartoons, the short was released theaters on May 19th, 1951 by Warner Brothers Pictures and is often considered among Jones's best and most important films. The film marks a significant shift in Daffy's personality, going from being the insane screwball character who, like Bugs, overwhelmed his adversaries to a much more flawed individual full of greed and vanity and desire for attention under the spotlight. So there we go. So, anyways, as we now get ready to move on to, of course, the next piece in each history. As we move ahead to the year 1996, on this date in 1996, for those wrestling fans who grew up in the 90s, this would be a very big thing for you. The MSG incident happened on this date back in 1996. The MSG incident, also known as the curtain call, was an incident where face and heel wrestlers Shawn Michaels, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Diesel, and Razor Ramon embraced in the ring at the end of the Michaels Diesel steel cage match due to Kevin Nash, who was portraying Diesel at the time, and Scott Hall, portraying Razor Ramon, having announced they were leaving for WCW. Takes place at the end of an arena show at Madison Square Garden. The incident will have a major impact on the careers of Triple H. His push will be stalled for several months as he took the blame for the events, and Steve Austin, who had just changed gimmicks to the Stone Cold persona, and have a huge impact on kayfabe as well. Kayfabe, for those of you who don't know, is basically the storylines behind the professional wrestling. Changing the long traditional illusion that inside the ring, rivals also hated each other outside the ring. Yeah, part of the reason this was called the curtain call because it was marking a major shift in pro wrestling history where it was becoming apparent that fans now knew that wrestling was, scripted. It was pretty much cementing the idea that this was all an act. What was happening in the ring, it was like basically watching a play. So, anyways, getting ready to move on to next piece of each history. As we move ahead to the year 2021, First up, on this date in the year 2021, 5 years ago today, the 25th issue of Moonshine from Image Comics went on sale on this date back in 2021, 5 years ago today. Sold for $3.99, was 28 pages. Part 3 of the Well story, as written by Brian Azzarello, with art and coloring done by Eduardo Riso, and Jared K. Fletcher did the lettering. There you go. So, 25th Moonshine number 25 went on sale on this date 5 years ago, back in 2021. And 2021 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. As soon as of course, I get that all up. And also on this date in the year 2021, as part of the Kaguya-sama Love is War franchise, the Kaguya-sama OVA, Tensai Tachi no Renai Zunosen, was released by A1 Pictures on this date 5 years ago as well. A1 Pictures OVA Kaguya-sama Love is War was released on this date back in 2021. Alrighty then, so with that being said, I thank everybody for being here. Of course, we'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow. Maybe if any of my normal sources do that story, we might cover that, or or depending upon, or we could also possibly get the historical, not this, but the indie comic showcase from Bleeding Fall. But I guess we'll just wait and see what happens. So with that, and don't forget, this Sunday I'll be joined by Sabrina from Devil Flyer Momentum, as we'll be going over comics that went on sale in the we're starting our September 1940 coverage, as we'll be looking at comics that went on sale from DC from 1940. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow.